Well, my name is George William Liebenstein. My nickname is Bill. It's spelled Liebenstein.
That's a German name?
It's a German name, stands for loving stone.
Loving stone? So what
That's
does
what they told me anyway.
All right. What is your birthday?
3/20 of 1932.
And where were you born?
Freeport, Illinois.
You're native here.
Yes.
So you know everybody.
Well, I used to. Not anymore, not even in our little town of Pearl City. It's grown from 450 to 800 people.
But it's a very small city.
But it's become a bedroom town.
Bedroom town for what? Chicago?
No, Freeport, the area.
You mean the Pearl City?
Yes.
Yeah.
There are no retail businesses except a restaurant, a tavern, and a mini mart.
Tell me about your family when you were growing up, your parents and your siblings.
Well, I grew up, I was 2 years old when my parents moved in with my grandparents on the Kittner side of the family. My grandfather had a stroke, and my mother and father moved in with them to take care of my grandfather, who I was named after, George Kittner. And in fact, I'm living in the house now that I grew up in. And I've lived in Pearl City all 85 years of my life except for the Korean service. So the town has changed. Everything has changed.
What were your father doing?
My grandfather on the other side of the family, on the Liebenstein family, he and his brother owned a general merchandise, grocery and general merchandise store. And I grew up in that. And when I got home from service, I had inherited half of it by then. And I helped run it until 1971. My grandfather had passed away in 1953.
Your father?
My father was killed in an accident in 1943 when I was 11 years old. An accident at work, by the way. A truck tipped over and pinned him against the wall and crushed him.
How about your siblings?
I have no brothers or sisters.
Only son, only child.
Only child.
So tell me, what high school did you graduate and when?
Pearl City High School, 1950.
Pearl City High School, 1950. And let me ask this question. Were you a good student?
Yes.
Were you good at geography, world history?
Better at that than most anything else.
Oh, did you know anything about Korea?
Not at the time, no.
You said that you were good. You knew a lot.
Not a lot. Maybe more than the average student.
Yeah, and they didn't teach anything about Korea, right?
Not in high school, not in history.
How about any country in Asia that you knew at the time?
I don't really remember.
China, Japan, were you familiar?
Well, of course, we all heard of Japan, you know, because of World War II.
Right.
And China, yes. But Korea, of course, by the time I graduated high school, we knew where Korea was.
Right, because of the World War.
Because of the problems.
So, were you thinking that you were going to be dragged into the Korean War?
Yes.
How was it? I mean, were you scared or?
Yes. Yes, I was. I wasn't prepared to leave home because when my grandfather passed away in January of 1953, I had just finished basic training. And my wife, we were married at the time. My wife...
When are you talking about? 1953 or 50?
Well, in 1953, when I was already in the service. I went in October of 52. My grandfather passed away in January of 53. My wife quit her job in Freeport to go help run the store. Because I wasn't there.
So, you joined the army, drafted or enlisted?
I was drafted.
Where did you get the basic?
Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Okay, and then where did you go?
Well, I went to Camp Stoneman, California, and then we boarded ship from there to Japan, and then another ship to Korea.
When did you leave actually Camp Stoneman?
About the end of March of '53.
Mm.
I reported out there on the 27th of March. We were there 2 or 3 days before we shipped out.
And from Japan to Korea, when did you arrive? When did you arrive in Korea?
Approximately in the middle of April.
Of 53.
Yes.
Was it Busan or Incheon?
Busan.
So the country that you never knew before, you arrived and you saw Busan. How was it? The people, city?
We were there, we got there in the evening, and we were out of there the next day.
So you didn't
I
have
did pull guard duty though that night.
anything that you remember now?
Well,
The Busan that you saw for the first time.
didn't really see any of the city at all. I don't remember any of the city. I shipped into Busan and departed from Busan, and I still didn't see any of the city.
Right.
I pulled guard duty that first night, walked a fence line,
Yeah.
and I was scared. Believe me.
Why?
Well, I didn't know what I was into. We didn't even carry a weapon on guard duty. It was.
But there was no enemy there.
It was only 2 hours. There was no enemy there. No.
Yeah. So you didn't have any reason to be scared.
No. Well, except I was in a strange country and didn't have any idea what was going on.
Exactly. That's the point that I'm asking. So you were kind of at loss, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So from Busan, where did you go?
Wooden seated troop train all the way to Yeongdong-po, I think it was, right outside Seoul.
Yeah. And what was your unit actually?
I was in an outfit called the 1st Field Artillery Observation Battalion. It was excuse my language, a bastard outfit. We were connected to I Corps Artillery and to 8th Army both.
8th Army.
But we had no affiliation with any battalion, any other battalion or any division or anything.
Could you repeat that, your unit again? 1st
1st Field Artillery
Uh-huh.
Observation Battalion. It was a
Go ahead.
I'm trying to think of the word I want to use. It was an artillery battalion with no guns.
So you are
Strictly sight and sound observation.
observation. And so that you have to be in the far front line, right? Is that right?
The outlying batteries were all front line. I happened to be lucky enough to get in headquarters battery, and we were in North Korea. As far as geographically, we were in North Korea, but we were back at least 2 to 3 miles behind the lines.
Mm-hmm. But from Yeongdong-po, where did you go?
We ended up in a place called North Yanshan.
North
Yanshan.
Yeoncheon.
They said at one time it was a city of 40,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing there but a water tower at the railroad yard with holes in it from shelling. There was no buildings. You could see some, like foundations, if you want to call it that, but the city was gone.
So was Yeoncheon part of MLR, main resistance
It
line?
was still south a couple miles.
And you were able to see the enemy there?
No.
No. So
No, I never saw the enemy.
Uh-huh. So what was your duty there?
Well, I went in with supply training. I was trained as a supply personnel.
Mm-hmm.
I was assigned to the motor pool for about 3 weeks until the battalion supply officer got wind of the fact that I was trained in supply and I'd been assigned to the motor pool, and he got me transferred as quickly as he could.
Mm-hmm.
I got into battalion supply. from there I moved up to battery supply sergeant. About 6, 7, 8 months later. I don't remember for sure, end of the year.
So explain it to the children and the students that will listen to you. Battery supply, what do you mean? What kind of things that you did?
All the boots, coats, sleeping bags, cots, everything you could use came through battalion supply room. And we had to divide it up and send it to what we called Abel, Baker, and Charlie batteries, A, B, and C batteries, and also the headquarters battery, which was, you know, the command post. The rations did not necessarily come through battalion supply, except the rations that we got in for the Korean laborers that were assigned to our outfit. Their rations came through battalion supply. So we had everything you could think of, from tents to cots to boots to field jackets to helmets, caps, everything.
Everything
came through us.
So at the time, that was 1953, so
Yeah.
it was almost the end of the war, and there was enough supplies, right?
As far as I know there was, yes, for our outfit, yes.
Were there any incidents or episode that's related to your work at the battery headquarters?
Not really. We had a few air raid warnings and
Bad Chuck Charlie?
yeah, bed check Charlie, and also well, we had our foxholes dug. We slept in squad tents, which slept 16 people in cots in a big tent. I remember the dimensions of it, but it was a big tent. And we had our foxholes outside the tents, and one night, I remember they had a warning, we had to get out in our foxhole. Some GI had gone berserk and was driving down the road firing at everything he could see, firing his rifle at everything he could see. He hit the tent, but he didn't hit any people in our outfit. They finally caught him. That was the closest I came to being shot. That was by one of our own men.
So you still belong to 1st Field Artillery Observation Battalion?
Yes.
You still belong to that?
Yes.
And that doesn't belong to any division or regiments?
No.
Wow, I didn't know that.
It was just connected to 8th Army, and we also were under the command of the 1st Corps, I Corps.
So, tell me about the life there. How was it? I mean, you just told me that the Quonset, but other things like eating and...
Well, we pretty much just went about our duties, and we had plenty of spare time. We had fun. We went to the club and had a couple of beers, you know, in the evenings. Not right away, but after we got acclimated to it, we made friends and good buddies, some of them closer than others, naturally. I played quite a bit of ball when we finally got settled good, because I played ball, basketball and softball. In fact, I coached the softball team. And we didn't get a chance to do that a lot. One thing we did not have were showers. There were no shower sites anywhere close to us.
Really?
Finally, they moved one in about, I'll bet it was 2 months.
So where did you clean then yourself?
Well, we cleaned up in the tents in a basin, and we did get to go down the road, so to speak, to take a shower.
Did you know why you were there?
Oh yeah.
Tell me.
We were going to defeat communism right there on the spot. That was it. That's the last stop for you guys.
How was the Korean people there around the Yeoncheon area?
There weren't any.
No?
We were 17 miles north of the farm line.
Uh-huh.
So there were no civilians allowed north of that farm line. except for the laborers. And there were only a handful of them. They gave us some trouble. They stole from us, but they had nothing. Why wouldn't they? Blankets, anything they could get their hands on, you know. We had to pull a raid on there. They had a tent of their own. We had to pull a raid on them a few times, to, of course, especially from supply, to retrieve some of our belongings. But, you know, really, I never blamed them for that because they had nothing. They didn't get paid enough to live on.
Yeah, that's the worst period of Korea, modern Korea. I mean, it was completely demolished and everybody was poor. Everybody lost their parents and their family. It was a survival of the fittest.
We had a young man that worked for us at Battalion Supply. His name was Lee Yong-bin. And he had escaped North Korea in order not to be drafted in the North Korean Army. And he spoke very good English. He had had 2 years of university at Seoul. So he was a little older than a lot of our guys were. He didn't look it, but he was. A nicest young man. And I befriended him. We got to be pretty good friends. In fact, he and my wife even corresponded back and forth to each other.
Really?
He wrote beautiful English, beautiful letters. I often wondered what happened to him after the war.
What was his working relationship with you? What did he do for?
He worked in Battalion Supply. He was kind of like a gopher, you know. He did a lot of our running for us, and he helped with the supplies, helped, you know, divide them up, split them up the way they had to be, fill out the requisitions and so forth. He helped us with that, yeah.
What was the most difficult thing during your service in Korea?
Being gone from my wife and my business, both.
How? I mean, did you have a daughter, right, at the time? No children?
No children.
No children, but you were separated from your wife.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And I didn't know it at the time, but she was pregnant when I left home.
Oh.
She lost the baby early in the pregnancy.
Oh, she lost the baby. I'm sorry to hear that. So, how often did you write the letter back to her?
At least every other day. In the same way.
Do you still keep those letters?
I've got almost all the letters I wrote to her.
You still have it?
I'm reading through them right now.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Tell me about it. Oh,
well,
what amazing!
That's how I knew when I got to Korea, because I think it was the 14th or 17th of April when I wrote to her, told her we just landed in Busan and we're heading north. Of course, I couldn't tell her what I was getting into because I didn't know, and if I would have known, I wouldn't have been able to tell her. You know, so I don't know what happened to the letter she wrote to me. I thought I saved them, but I don't know where they are. If I did, I can't find them. I don't know where they are.
Oh.
But, yeah.
How do you feel when you read this through again, that the letter that you sent to her?
I could hardly believe it.
Huh?
I could hardly believe it. We had a little weekly newspaper printed by my next door neighbors in Pearl City, called the Pearl City News, and they sent those to all the servicemen, free of charge, of course, but it would be 2 or 3 weeks at least from the time they were printed until we got them. And of course, the little hometown newspaper was more gossip than anything. And it was fun to look back through them too. But about all I can say is I told her in the letters I love her, I miss her, and I can't wait to get home. And the time will go by fast, but I also told her I'm getting along fine. Don't worry about me.
Well, they're all PG-13 or is rated version of the letter.
Oh, sure.
What? PG-13 or rated?
Well, I would say rated.
Okay. This must be
Not too bad.
this must be very hard for you, right? To miss your wife
Yeah, sure.
so much, and
Yeah.
vice versa. You
Yes.
know? Yeah.
Yes.
My foundation has many those letters because we collected from other Korean War
yeah.
veterans, and I want you to think about it. Go through it, okay? And is there any letter that you want to share with us? We can scan it and publish in the website so that everybody can read it.
No,
No?
not so far.
Not so far. So
No, well, I wrote some from Fort Leonard Wood, but they were just, I'll hope to see you next weekend or something like that, you know. She'd come down, visit when I got through basic. I got into supply school. I had my weekends from Saturday noon till 6 o'clock Monday morning off usually.
mm.
I did go home a few times, drove a little further than we were supposed to, but everybody did it.
What's your wife's name?
Mary Ann.
Mary Ann.
Her brother served in Korea at the end of World War II.
Oh.
So I did know, I shouldn't say I didn't know anything about it because
Yeah.
I knew a little bit, but very little.
Mm-hmm.
He was drafted right at the end of World War II and he ended up serving in Korea for a few months.
I see. What bothers you most, except that you were separated from your wife in Korea? Weather or what is it?
I got along pretty good, really, just being that far from home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wasn't around my friends either. I would like to play ball. Of course, I wasn't around to play ball with my old friends and my old teams. And food, missed the food. Cooking,
Yeah.
home cooking. Yeah, I missed that. And just being free to do what you wanted to do. You know, I wanted to go uptown for coffee in the morning, I could. I could still have coffee, but I couldn't go anywhere to have it.
What was your rank?
Well, I started out, of course. I ended up being a sergeant.
Sergeant.
Yeah, I passed up an opportunity, and I haven't told too many people this, but I passed up an opportunity to go to sergeant first class. They extended my tour of duty by 30 days, and they offered me that extra rank. And I had a young guy working for me in the supply room that was a good kid, not too much education, not too bright. I mean, good worker. I said, he needs another stripe, give it to him instead of me. And I paid for that because the mustering out pay from a sergeant to a sergeant first class in 1954 was about $600 or $800, and I had a lot of money then. So, but I never regretted it.
How
really.
much were you paid at the time?
For mustering out pay, I had 43 days leave time built up.
No. How much were you paid? Salary?
I don't remember.
About 120?
Oh God, I don't know. My wife got about, I think, $35 a month maybe. I don't remember what I got.
Did your wife work here?
She worked in our store.
Oh, I see. So she was taking care of your own business?
Yes.
Yes, good. That's good.
And then later on, I purchased the partnership out and moved the store to the other side of Pearl City, down in the main block, and went into business for myself in 1971.
Mm.
She and I were partners. It's still a grocery store.
Mm. Did you have a chance to look around the Korean cities?
I got to Seoul once.
How was it? Seoul. Let me
Bombed out at that time.
describe the detail of the scenes, please, because
I
students
didn't get to see much. We went down for supplies, if I remember right. I'm not sure why we went. But I know that particular day, one of the kids had a brand new expensive camera strapped on his shoulder, and he never got back home with it. He never got back out of Seoul with it. It was stolen from him, which, there again,
Yeah.
You know? I didn't see much of the city. I don't remember much about it.
Mm.
All I know is we saw the Capitol, you know, in full shell holes, what was left of it. That's the main thing I remember, seeing that building there with full of holes.
Mm-hmm.
I got to Wee John Boo once for supplies. I don't remember anything about that at all. We went down with a truck, picked up our supplies, and went back. That's the only 2 times I was out of the outfit.
When did you leave Korea?
End of July of 1954.
So you were there and when the armistice was signed.
Oh yes.
How was it? What was the mood there? in
Party
the-
time.
Hmm?
Party time. Yeah, celebrations. Yeah. In fact, too much so we lost one guy in an accident that night of the armistice.
How?
He and another guy took a 3/4 ton truck. We're going down the road. They run it off a bridge into the Han River. And those 3/4 ton trucks, spare tire, came across the driver's side door and pinned him in the truck, and he drowned. Nice young man from Wisconsin.
Mm.
Due to ship home in a couple of weeks. But it was party time.
Do you remember the day that you met again, saw your wife again?
Oh yeah, I got home. I got back to Fort Sheridan on a Saturday, the 16th of August, and we were only 100 miles west of Chicago. And I called her and I said, I'm not coming home for the weekend. When I come home, I'm never leaving again.
Mm.
So I stayed in Chicago over the weekend and went to a ball game, and then I got out.
You went to ball game,
I went to a ball game.
making your wife waiting for you?
Yeah, but it was worth it. Because, like I said,
Come
I wasn't
on.
going to go home on Saturday and come back on Sunday. So I stayed till Monday, and when I got home, I've been there ever since. That's what I wanted. She did too, so it was all right.
Describe the scene that you met your wife after ball game.
Well, I didn't after the ball game.
No,
Oh, after the ball.
yeah,
That Monday.
yeah.
Well, her brother and his wife brought her to Fort Sheridan to pick me up, and of course it was love all over again, you know, hugs and kisses. What else would you do?
We can make
Very glad to be home.
Yeah. Have you been back to Korea?
No, I haven't.
Hmm. You know what's happening in Korea? What's been done in Korea?
Oh yeah.
Tell me about it.
Well, they pulled themselves up by the bootstraps is really a way to describe it. Skyscrapers, what, 14-story hotels? I don't know how big they are, but we've got pictures of Seoul. That one booklet that the Korean government put out.
Reborn Korea.
Yeah, right. I loved looking at that. I showed that our Methodist minister in Pearl City was from South Korea. Of course, he was way too young to remember any of that. But I took that book and showed it to him, and he couldn't hardly believe the difference. From the first picture was Seoul in '53, and the next picture was Seoul in what, 2006 or whatever it was.
What do you think about that?
Wonderful. Look what we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Isn't that a wonderful, successful story?
It is. And communism did stop there too.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
And why we don't teach about it?
You tell me, I don't know. There isn't time. There's too much history. There's too much American history to cover the Korean War very much in detail.
No, they didn't cover much.
They didn't cover much at all.
Only one paragraph. Why?
I don't know.
You tell me. You are American. I'm going to be American by June 1st.
Good for you.
But
Congratulations.
I'm still Korean citizen, so I'm asking you.
I don't know.
Why there is no? Why don't they teach about this success story?
I don't know. I can't tell you that.
Hmm.
I don't have an education, so I can't speak
It's
from an
not-
educated standpoint.
Hey, it's not about the degree or education. You should be able to understand what was the reason behind this whole thing that Korean War is forgotten.
I don't know. We've often wondered that, all of us, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's not the forgotten war anymore because they're honoring us now, 60 years after the fact.
Honoring veterans, but at the same time, Korea itself demonstrated its vibrant economy and democracy, that the power that they want to rebuild their nation, and it's a success story.
It is.
I think we need to teach about it.
It was a lot like that with Germany after World War II.
Yeah. So what do you think we have to do to teach them that?
I haven't the slightest idea. I don't know. I just don't know.
That's why we are doing this.
Yes, that's good.
The children will listen from Bill, the Korea that you saw in 1950, and the Korea you know now. And I think it will tell them that a lesson, and that is the legacy of the Korean War. That's why we are doing this.
Well, let's face it, we saved a people from annihilation, practically, from the Chinese. Although how many hundreds of thousands of South Koreans were killed, and North Koreans. But the biggest fact that I can see is that we stopped communism.
Yep.
And that, it's like some of our jackets or shirts say, if you can read this, thank a teacher. If you can read it in English, thank a veteran. Because it could have been German, it could have been Japanese, it could have been Chinese.
Yes.
I think we did a wonderful job over there.
Yep.
And I don't think we got enough credit for it. But that's the way life is. It isn't always fair.
Right.
But it's still there to be lived for all of us.
Yeah, Korean people never forget it, and
I can see that, and I, for one, really appreciate the way the Korean people feel toward us. I really do.
Are you proud of your service now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go, but I'm sure glad I did now.
Yes.
As I look back.
That is your legacy.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few other things I've done in my life too that
that you're proud of?
Yes.
What are those? Share with us.
Well, I coached boys baseball for 16 years.
Here?
I've been township clerk, adjutant, finance officer of the American Legion, active in the Methodist Church. I've done everything in a small town there is to do. Volunteer. I was on a volunteer fire department for 42 years.
That's the American spirit, volunteerism, for the good of the society.
And I left my wife raising two little boys while I went out and coached other guys' boys. I was hoping it would be returned if I wasn't there for my boys. And luckily I was. Thankfully I was. But I've never regretted a minute of it. I loved every bit of it.
Very good.
Everything I've done, I've liked, except I didn't want to go in the Army, and I did. And I'm glad I did.
Please give my best regard to your wife, Marianne.
She passed away in January of last year.
Last year?
Yes.
I am so sorry to
She
hear
had
that.
a lot of things wrong with her.
Oh, must be very hard for you.
It was. We were just a month short of our 64th wedding anniversary.
64th? Wow.
So, but it's been a good life. It was a good life for both of us together. And I'm still doing well. Thank you.
Great. Bill, thank you very much for sharing your story with me. So you are reading that letter now?
Yeah, I'm partway through them. I do, well, when I get a chance at night, I'll read 3 or 4 of them.
That would be very, that would be wonderful, and at the same time it's hard, right?
I finally got them sorted out in chronological order, so
okay.
I can go from one day to the next.
How many do you have?
They're all mixed up. Oh, probably 70, 80, maybe close to 100, I don't know. Well, 18 months, 16 months.
Yeah.
I don't have them all, but I've got a lot of them. So.
Bill, thank you for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
And
thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, sir. Let's keep doing this, okay? All right.
Could I